friends, welcome to Tarun IAS. Today we will be discussing daily current affairs of 2nd of December 2022. So let's start with the first news of the day. The first news is about aircraft leasing, that is wet leasing of aircraft. In order to boost the international air traffic, the Civil Aviation Ministry has allowed Indian Airlines to take wide-body planes on wet lease for up to 1 year. News has been taken from the Indian Express Explain page. Wet leasing of aircrafts means renting the plane along with the operating crew and engineers, while dry leasing refers to only leasing the aircraft on rent. So there are two types of leasing. So first we understand what the leasing means. Basically it is giving anything on rent, and here we are giving aircrafts on rent. Now aircrafts can be rented in two ways. One is the wet leasing and the other one is the dry leasing. So when the operating staff is given along on rent, it is called as wet leasing, and when only the aircraft is given, it is called as dry leasing. Alright, so this is one distinction that we must remember. The technical term for wet leasing is ACMI, that is Aircraft Crew Maintenance and Insurance. Operation of an aircraft on wet lease are not encouraged by the Civil Aviation Directorate General, as the crew is often not approved by Indian authorities. Also, wet leasing is generally a short-term arrangement as it is more expensive than a dry leasing. Now, what happens in India? In India, wet leasing is not very much popular because of two reasons. The first one is the expenses. For example, the salary of the staff, the refurbishments, etc., etc. So these things amount to the expenses, and therefore it becomes a short-term arrangement but expensive arrangement. And the second point is that Indian Directorate General of Civil Aviation also did not encourage it. Alright, because the Indian authorities have not approved the crew member that comes along with the leased aircraft. Alright. Now, a lot of planes which are used by airlines in India, they are not owned but they are leased. So, airlines and aircraft operators prefer leasing planes in order to avoid the massive lump sum payments that buying them would entail and quickly increase capacity, perhaps temporarily. So, in order to increase their capacity, Indian aircraft and airlines operators, they prefer leasing of aircraft instead of buying them. The next news of the day is about economy today, that is 2nd of December. So there were two important news with respect to the economy. The first one was boost to the shipbuilding industry, and the second one was the manufacturing PMI signals output orders at 3-month high. That means the PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index, has saw a rise, a 3-month high since October. The news has been taken from The Hindu. So let's first talk about the Purchasing Managers Index and why it was in news. Because PMI index, it has rose from 55.3 in October to 55.7 now. Alright. So as per the S&P Indian manufacturing sector, it has saw record uptick in output and new orders because it is Purchasing Managers Index, with falling input cost lifting sentiments to an 8-year high. Right, so we will also see what PMI index is, but first we saw that why this was in news. Now let us see what Purchasing Managers Index is. Basically, it's a survey-based measure that asks the respondent about changes in their perception of key business variables as compared with the previous month. So basically, it's a survey. So it asks respondents about the perception. So basically, Purchasing Managers Index is a perception. It is a perception-based index. It is an index of the prevailing directions of economic trend in the manufacturing and service sector. So that means in PMI, both the sectors are included, manufacturing as well as service sector. The purpose of the PMI is to provide information about current and future business conditions to company decision makers, analysts and investors. It is calculated separately for the manufacturing and services sector, and then a composite index is constructed. So both service and manufacturing sectors are taken into consideration, and then and then a composite index is prepared. So PMI ranges from number 0 to 100, and while 50 is that margin. So above 50 it means expansion of business, and below 50 it means there is contraction. Alright, so this is depending upon the previous month index. So the comparison is taken from the previous month. So base month is the previous month. So it usually released at the start of the month. Therefore, it is considered a good leading indicator of economic activity. Now, it is compiled by IHS Markit for more than 40 economies worldwide. And IHS Markit is a global leader in information analytics and solutions for the major industries and markets that drive economies worldwide. And it is part of Standard & Poor's Global, which is a company. What is the significance of PMI? Basically, it provides a reliable expectation of economy. It's an indicator of the economic activity. It helps the policymaker in decision making, and it also enhances expansion of PMI. Enhances the attractiveness of the economy. Now let us talk about the shipbuilding industries. So India recently has planned to offer cash subsidies, that is lower taxes and other incentives, in order to boost the shipbuilding industry. So it also plans to include subsidies so that at least 50 new vessels can be built, as well as granting infrastructure status to the industry. So when an industry is granted infrastructure status, it means this shipbuilding industry now becomes eligible from the formal credit. Loan shall be given. FDI can be attracted. FII can also be attracted. Investment can also be there. So now this has become. Now, the finance minister is expected to announce the plans in upcoming budget, that is 2023 to 24. Local tax rules deter investors from investing in the industry, and that is the reason why shipbuilding industry is not it's not a profitable business in India. However, the cost of ship making in India is 20% lower as compared to Indonesia and Philippines. India could save at least $25 billion a year in foreign exchange if government incentives helps the private firms to develop local shipping industry. The next news of the day is about the Harimau Shakti. It's a joint military exercise between India and Malaysia, which commenced at Pulai, Kluang in Malaysia. Harimau Shakti is a joint annual military training exercise between India and Malaysia. It has been conducted since the year 2012. It's an exercise between the Indian Army and the Malaysian Army in order to foster the bilateral relations between the two nations. The other exercise between India and Malaysia is Udra Shakti, which is a bilateral Air Force exercise. Alright, so Harimau is a military exercise and Udra Shakti is a Air Force exercise. The next news of the day is about semi-automated offside technology. Now, what is this semi-automated offside technology? See, Federation International de Football Association, that is FIFA, which is conducting football recently, in Qatar, is using SOAT, that is semi-automated offside technology, for offside decisions in the ongoing Football World Cup. Now let us see what is this. Basically, it's a support tool for the video match officials and the on-field officials to help them make decisions faster, reproduce more, and to have more accurate offside decisions. Now sometimes what happens when there is an umpire or a referee, so it is possible that what they have looked at or what is visible in the cameras may have a little difference, right? So therefore this semi-automated offside technology helps them make decision better, make more accurate decision. So there are two parts of the technology. The first is the sensors, which is inside the match ball, that is held using suspension technology, and the existing tracking tools that are part of the video assistant referee system. So every time the ball is hit, data is sent in real time to a network of antenna installed around the playing field. Additionally, there are 12 Hawkeye cameras which are set up around the turf that shadow both ball and the players. As many as 29 separate points in the human body is tracked. Coming together of the ball sensors and the Hawkeye camera is in effect SOAT. So SOAT technology consists of ball sensor which are suspended inside the ball, and there is Hawkeye sensors. These two data sets are run through artificial intelligence software which generates automated alerts about offside to the match officials. This replaces the manual effort taken in poring over replays for minutes on end. Right. The next news of the day is about the Kuki-chin refugee. The Mizoram cabinet has approved the setting up of temporary shelter and other amenities for Bangladesh Kuki-chin refugee. Kuki-chin people, they share ethnic ties with Mizos. Now see, this is Mizoram and this is we have Tripura. Right, here it is Nagaland, Manipur, then we have Arunachal Pradesh like this. And these all states share boundary with Myanmar. Now what happens? Myanmar is also divided into states. The Chin state of Myanmar, the Chin people of Myanmar, they share ethnic ties with the Mizos people here in India, and both of them, they are part of a larger group which is known as the Zo. Now because they have this shared ethnic ties and the family ties, therefore people from Mizoram, they are accepting Chin refugees here which are mostly Christians. They are mostly Christians in a Buddhist dominated state. Is that right? Now Chin people, these Kuki-chin people, they are settled in the Chittagong hill tract, which is the only extensive area in Bangladesh that lies in the southern eastern part of the country. Right? So Myanmar of the southeast, and the Chin state borders the Myanmar on the southeast, Tripura on north, Mizoram on the east, and Chittagong district on the west. Now let us see what is India's stand on refugee. Basically, India is not a signatory to the United Nations Refugee Convention of 1951 and its 1967 protocol, and it does not recognize refugees. Right? So India does not have a refugee policy. We have refugee policy on case to case basis. All right. So India is neither signatory to the 1951 convention nor its 1967 protocol. So all foreign undocumented nationals, they are governed by the provisions of Foreigners Act of 1946, Registration of Foreigners Act of 1930, the Passport Entry into India Act 1920, and the Citizenship Act of 1955. So these are the laws which governs refugees in India, because India does not have a refugee policy. There is no refugee policy, and also it is not signatory to any of the international convention. We deal with refugees on case to case basis. Is that right? Okay. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching Tarun IAS. If you want to download the PDF of this session, you can go to the Telegram channel. The link will be given in the description below. Have a nice day.